Alright, so if you're viewing this video, it's because you've decided that you wanted some more practice before taking your quiz, which I think is a very good idea, so thank you for doing so. What you need to do right now is copy down these 6 problems and try them on your own. Okay, so you're going to pause the video, you're going to copy down the problems, you're going to try them on your own. If you get stuck on something and the sub is okay with it, you can go ahead and check with the person behind you to get your questions answered. I do not want you getting up and moving around the room. It is okay if you check with the person sitting next to you or in front of you or behind you, but that is it. So go ahead and pause the video, copy down the problems, and try them. Alright, so by now you should have tried all of these problems. Hopefully you went ahead and made sure that you made your list of perfect squares at the top. I'm going to expect that you make that list of perfect squares on your quiz as well, on the front and on the back side. Alright, so looking at number 1, this one should be the easiest, right? Again, it's just a square root that we're going to need to simplify. So we need to find the largest perfect square that goes into 80 evenly. It is not 4. Please make sure that you're going through your list, that you try the ones that are the biggest, but also smaller than that number first. So you should have tried 64 first. Then you should have tried 49. In the end, the perfect square that went into 80 was 16, and it went into it 5 times. So then the square root of 16 is 4. We can't take the square root of 5, so we bring that down, and your final answer is 4 root 5. Number 2 I put up there to try and trick you. Look at that negative inside the square root. It's okay if there's a negative on the outside. It is not okay if there's a negative on the inside. So since there's a negative on the inside, we would say cannot simplify. You could also say no real solutions, but those all mean the same thing. Okay? So let's look over here at number 3, which was probably the most difficult one on that line. Because there's addition and subtraction between them, remember that the idea is we need to have like radicals. In other words, the number in the radical has to be the same. None of these numbers are the same, so that means we're going to have to simplify them first. So in this first one, 25 is actually a perfect square, so we can go ahead and take the square root of it, which is 5, and 3 times 5 is 15. All right, so I have 15 as the end there, and then we would bring down our plus sign. Then we would need to go ahead and try and find the perfect square that goes into 27 evenly. And in this case, it would be 9, which goes into it 3 times. And then we bring our 4 out front. Now the square root of 9 is 3. Bring down your square root of 3 and your 4. So we need to multiply those together to get 12 square root of 3. So now I have 15 plus 12 square root of 3. Then we're going to do the same thing with the 75. So I'm going to bring down my minus sign first. The largest perfect square that goes into 75 is 25, and it goes in there 3 times. We bring down our 8 out front. The square root of 25 is 5. Bring down our 8 and our square root of 3. 8 times 5 is 40 square root of 3. Now remember, before you're done, you have to check to see if there's any like radicals that we can combine. And in this case, we have a square root of 3 and a square root of 3. So that means I need to combine these together. Now when I combine them, remember, since we're adding and subtracting, the only thing that changes is the coefficient. So I'm going to do positive 12 minus 40, which would give me negative 28. And then the square root of 3 just comes along, and the 15 gets brought down. So remember, when you're doing addition and subtraction problems, you need to simplify first and then combine. That is the opposite of what you do with multiplication problems. With multiplication problems, you're going to combine them first and then simplify. So in this case, I probably would have put a 1 out in front of my square root of 32 to remind myself that I'm multiplying 8 times 1, which is 8. And then I would need to multiply the 10 and the 32, which would give me the square root of 320. Now I need to find the largest perfect square that goes out into 320, which ends up being 64, which goes into 325 times. And then I bring down my 8. The square root of 64 is 8, so we're going to do 8 times 8, square root of 5, which ends up giving me 64 square root of 5 as my final answer. Number 5 is probably one of the easier ones that you'll have done, and that's because in this case, we would try to simplify, but none of these can actually be simplified. But there are like radicals, so we're going to combine our 2 radical 7 and our positive 9 radical 7. So 2 plus 9 is 11, and the square root of 7 just comes along. Then the negative 3 root 2 and the negative 2 root 2 combine to give me negative 5 root 2. And because these cannot be simplified and they're not like radicals, then we're done. So remember the difference between these. With multiplying, you multiply everything and then reduce, or simplify, I should say. With combining like terms, you would simplify first and then combine them together. And you can only combine them together in adding and subtracting if the numbers in the radical are the same. All right, last one, number 6. So this one is one of these distributing problems. So we're going to do 3 radical 5 times radical 8. So since all we have are 2 numbers inside the radical, those are going to get multiplied, but the 3 would just get brought down. Or you could have put a 1 in front, so you're doing 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 8 is the square root of 40. Then we need to find the largest perfect square that goes into 40, which is 4, and it goes in 10 times with the 3 being brought down out front. So we would have 3 times 2 square root of 10, which is 6 square root of 10. Then we need to go ahead and do this with the last piece. So we're doing 3 square root of 5 times negative 2. In this case, there's only the 2 numbers on the outside. So we're doing 3 times negative 2, which is negative 6. Bring the square root of 5 down because it's the only number on the outside. There is not a perfect square that goes into 5 evenly, so we bring it down. And when I look at this, I need to look at the number in the radical to see if I can combine them. Since the numbers in the radical are different, I'm done at that point. All right, so go ahead and put that in your binder in the notes section. And then put everything away, get into your quizzing seats to take your quiz. Good luck.